Soft bluegill swim baits. This is not a new category. This is something that's been made for many years now from different variations, like your just standard kind of wedge tail with just a nice bluegill profile like this bait here, and you just cast it, wind it in, retrieve it, and it's gonna come in just with the classic tail kick. But then there's been other ones like this guy here. This is the Grow Designs G flag, and it's a bluegill glide bait. You can straight retrieve it, it's got a nice action to it, but at the core of it, it's a glide bait. However, what if we tried to combine both of these things to get one type of bluegill swim bait? Well, what we would get is a guy that looks like this. This is the new Wazamono Gill Soft 130. And if you guys want to know more about this awesome little gill bait, let's get right into today's video.
Nice. All right. Right there on that gill soft. Nice little fish. Super dope. Gill soft fish. Smoke that thing. This fish trying to come. Yoshikata! Yosha! Yosha! Yabai.
Not a big one, but urban bass right there. Super dope. Nice fish. All right. Thanks for playing, buddy.
Oh my god! Oh my goodness, dude. Oh, choked it. Oh my goodness. There's another one, boys. Oh my goodness. Yeah. You think you wanted it, Chief. Oh my god, did he absolutely come up and smoke that thing, dude. Dude, that's another not bad one. Holy shit.
Dude, another pretty fish. Holy smokes, look at that thing. Ate it right at my feet. How sick is that? That was disgusting, dude. Look at that. All right. See you later, bud.
There's another one. Your shot. Oh my god. They're stacked, boys. They are stacked right now in this corner. It's getting a little dark now. You guys can barely see that one, but it's another one. Wow. Sick. Another one. Beautiful fish. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. Not big ones, but for pond fishing, I'll take it.
So this is the Wazamono Gill Soft 130. Now, Wazamono is kind of a new brand, and it started up by a guy named Mihara. Mihara is a very famous Japanese bass angler over in Japan, and his company that he really works for is a company that most guys know about, and that's Imakatsu. And he's basically like the main pro staff guy for Imakatsu. However, he kind of started up this own company called Wazamono, and the first bait to come out is this guy here, and that's the Gill Soft 130. I was very fortunate to actually fish with Mihara back in September when myself and the Hookup Tackle, when we went to Ikehara in Nanairo. He was very kind enough to take us out fishing and kind of show us what this bait is all about. Now, this is how the bait's going to come stock. It's going to have this split ring to swivel to split ring to hook kind of setup here. It's going to come with the snap, and this is how it's going to come straight out of the box. However, the first time I fished the bait was actually rigged quite a bit different. It was rigged on a way that the US guys never really utilized that much, but it was rigged like this, with a side hook style rigging, where on both sides, the bait comes with these extra eyelets on either side of the bait, and that's basically used for adding these hooks on the side to act like a stinger. The idea of fishing the bait was to basically, we were on Ikehara when we were doing this, and Ikehara, if you don't know, it's a very clear body of water with very steep walls that drop off into deep water. And so the idea with fishing this rigging was to basically kind of make these long casts up shallow, like almost as shallow as you can go, and just slowly creep it. And then there on Ikehara, those fish aren't really sitting up on the bank. They can at times, but for the most part, if the bank's here, they're going to be kind of sitting out here cruising, and if they see something shallow, they'll go over and push up on it. So the idea is that you throw that gill up shallow, you slowly creep it, a fish comes by, sees this bait swimming, and once it kind of turns and starts following it, you basically kill it, and it sits upright because there's an inner core here that's like a bobber basically, and it just keeps it upright when you have it sitting on the bottom. And once it's sitting there on the bottom, the fish will come over and suck it up off the bottom. And that's, unfortunately, I missed the only bite that I had that day doing that. But going into it, I had no idea really what to expect with this bait. Is it a glide bait? Is it just a bait that you kind of just straight retrieve in? And it can do both, and the idea is to have it do both. And so other times I'd put it down on the bottom and have it sit there, and then Mihara would be like, oh, twitch it. And then you snap the rod and it just shoots up off the bottom and glides kind of away, and those fish would get kind of more fired up about it. So I was like, oh, okay, so the idea of it is mainly a bait to kind of cast and retrieve, but you can also get it to snap and kind of go side to side if you kind of snap it really hard with the rod. And so I was really starting to be much more fascinated in the bait after fishing with Mihara, and luckily enough, I got to fish with him and fish the bait where the bait was kind of designed for, the style of fishing that it was designed for, with the guy who designed it. So I felt really privileged to be able to fish with him, especially with this cool bait. Now, does that apply to my fishing here back in the States in Arizona? Not really. For the most part, I do have some like pretty steep walls, but I never really see the fish. And so for me, I thought like, okay, what can I do? How can I fish this bait that it can kind of apply for my own bodies of water? So again, this is how it comes straight out of the box. It's a floating swim bait. Now, however, when I was fishing with Mihara, he recommended to put in like 2.5 to 3 ounces of weight if you wanted to have a nice slow shimmy fall down, and then it'll sit on the bottom. So right away I decided, okay, let me throw in at least the biggest nail weight that I have, which is I believe 2.6 grams. I don't know what that is in ounces, but 2.6 grams of weight, and basically it gives you just a nice slow shimmy fall. And I was like, okay, perfect start. Now I was like, can I get it to consistently glide instead of having it on the bottom and kind of just giving it like one hard pop and it kind of shoots to the side? And this is kind of where the tinkering and the playing really came into play. Now, can you get this bait to glide? Yes, but it is very hard. Now on the straight retrieve, you can fish it slow. It looks great on a slow retrieve. You can fish it on a medium retrieve as well. You can burn it and it starts to kind of like get a little funky, but it works. It gets the job done. However, to get it to glide, what I found the most consistent way for me to get it to glide was to basically cast it out, straight retrieve it nice and slow, and then kind of snap, snap. Just 1, 2. And on that 1, 2, on that straight retrieve, it'll go side, side, and then go right back into that slow motion, snap, snap, side to side. And I could basically get it to glide like that fairly consistently. Now, however, could I get it to glide without doing a straight retrieve? The answer again is yes, but I found it to be very, very difficult. The way that you have to kind of really snap the rod. Now, the ways that we've kind of found easier ways to get it to glide just straight out of the box is you just have to put in more tungsten nails or any type of system that where you're going to put the nail weights. So if you go to like 5 grams, 7 grams, 9 grams, you can actually get the bait to glide a lot easier. However, if you start adding too much weight, when you get that bait to glide, it won't glide as far and it's going to immediately start sinking. Boom, boom. So I like to go with either the 2.6 grams or the 5.2 if I put 2 of them in there. I think I get a pretty good sink rate on it and it stays down in the water column and I can get it to kind of do exactly what I want it to for the most part. But again, it's going to take a lot of trial and error to kind of figure out like, all right, I should snap it now, snap it now, snap it now. And so I think the biggest thing, though, is where to put the weight. The nail weights need to go down here. There isn't a whole lot of soft plastic down here. There's a little bit right here in between the fins that you're going to have to slide the nail sinker in. And you could fit another one in there so they'll kind of go in like this in the bait. But there's kind of an inner core here. There's kind of like a weird weighted system here. So you kind of have to finagle it around, but you can't put weight anywhere else. If you put weight here in the back, it won't swim right. It won't glide right. If you put weight up here on the top, it's not going to swim right. It's not going to glide right. All the weight has to be down here to kind of counterbalance that float core that's here in the head section. So super, super important to do that. But once you kind of get it going and gliding, it looks absolutely phenomenal. It's the combination of that wedge style tail kind of swimming and kicking in the gliding action that gives it a really, really unique looking glide to it. And I absolutely love it. It's just, again, it's kind of hard to get down, but once you get it down, you'll see like, okay, this thing looks absolutely killer. Now let's talk about tinkering. I'm a big fan of tinkering and trying to figure out how I can change a bait to kind of fit more my style. And so I've done a lot of tinkering with some of these baits. So here is how it comes stock, right? And you're supposed to kind of just stick the hook in there. A super easy way for me to keep that hook in there is I like to kind of keep that hook in between those fins, just like that. And what I do is I'll actually make myself these pins. And these pins are just made out of like wire, basically. And so that's just the pin that I'm going to use. It's just a really small bronze wire. And all I do is I kind of just stick it in. There's quite a bit of plastic back here by this back joint. So I'm just going to slide it in there around that hook. And then just... and boom, just like that, that hook is staying there. It's not coming out. Right? But when that fish bites the bait and you set the hook, that pin's gonna pop free and you're not gonna have any of that leverage anymore. I just do this so I'm not tearing up that plastic in between here. It kind of just saves the longevity of the bait. The plastic is fairly durable, but if you start really tearing at it, it tears fairly easily. So that little pin trick really, really helps. Stays in there really good, and boom. just like that. Super simple little tweaking that I did just to have the longevity of that little plastic piece down here last a little bit longer. Now, going further beyond that, I, for whatever reason, had the notion of like, hey, what would it do? Would it be easier to glide it? Would it have like a longer glide to it if I just shave down that wedge tail? And so I grabbed an X-Acto knife and I tried it myself. And so I kind of hacked at it. It's not great, honestly, but my buddy, he made one by using a hot knife and kind of just glid right down each of the sides. And so his came out way, way better than mine. But once you do this, I say now you have a more standard, typical soft glide now. It's a lot easier to work. You're going to have it slide out a lot more. The hard inputs aren't needed as much anymore as well. And so doing this little mod, it actually changes the bait completely. So that, that super slow, like creeping with that wedge tail, you don't have that anymore. What you have is kind of more of like a super S style swim to it that you would see on like a Flag 170, an Osakana slide. It's a very, very similar swim now. And honestly, I absolutely love the swim of it now that I kind of shaved down that tail. And you can burn it. You can fish it at a medium retrieve, and it looks absolutely killer. The glide on it looks really, really good. And I've got it weighted basically the same exact, just one little 2.6 gram nail weight in it. And I honestly really liked how it turned out. Now, again, I kind of chopped it off pretty bad, but it worked. I caught some fish on this bait that you guys saw, and it's kind of my favorite version of the bait so far that I fished. I definitely kind of go between these two. If I want something to kind of just fish slower, like right now we're here in winter time and the water temperatures are dropping, so I feel like a lot of those fish just kind of want something that's just kind of cast, slow retrieve, and I feel like that's when this bait will come into play, where you just kind of cast it, slow grind it, and maybe you give it like a snap, like one little hard little glide and then come back. But the water temperatures are dropping, so I feel like right now for like that cold water stuff, this is money. Just cast, slow retrieve. However, once the water warms up and you want to fish a little bit faster, like this last fall, that's when I was catching those fish on this guy here. So I was able to kind of fish it at a much faster pace, give it a lot of twitches, and the fish were absolutely going nuts on it. So I like the idea that I kind of was able to kind of get two different versions out of the same bait. Obviously, if you just buy one, I don't recommend you cutting the tail. You obviously can if you want, but if anything, I'd get two. Have one that's kind of just, you leave that wedge tail on there, but then try the hot knife or the X-Acto knife cut, and you'll be surprised by how awesome this bait will swim. So overall, the bait is 130 millimeters. It's just under 2 ounces. So it's a very, very snack size bait, right? It's super small, snack size. So when those fish are feeding on like just the snack size gills, I mean, nothing beats this bait at all. I mean, the colors are absolutely amazing, super realistic stuff. The profile is amazing. It's just a bait that you can fish from like the local ponds that I was fishing to big bodies of water that are feeding on gills. Like, this is going to be a bait that basically anybody and everybody can fish and catch a lot of fish on. What's nice is if you guys are checking out these baits, you're going to see a few different color options and then a few other ones that have like a high vis. Like, what does that mean? Basically, all that means is on the head, you'll see that there's like this highlighter yellow. So out on the cast, you can see exactly where it is and what it's doing. Where on the normal one, you're not going to have that. So for me, I do really like that little highlighter hit. The bass aren't going to see it. They're not going to care for it. But for you on like a long cast, you can really make out that highlighter and see exactly where the bait is, what it's doing. Now, the setup that I've been fishing with the bait is a setup that you guys have been seeing me fish for like the past year and a half. And that is just the rod being the Megabass. This is the Mark 56 in the P5 line. It's a 1 to 3 ounce rod. It's an absolutely amazing rod. I love this rod. It's super lightweight, has enough backbone and power, but it's also nice and sensitive. So when I'm bumping rock or I'm getting into grass, I can feel it, I can rip it out, I can pop it over, and then I can just cast that 1 to 3 ounce bait super well on this rod. Then the reel just happens to be the Shimano Bantam. This is one of my favorite reels of all time. It's an absolute workhorse. It feels super solid. It throws these smaller swim baits incredibly well, and I just enjoy fishing this combo a lot. And then the line, I recommend going either like 14 pound or 16 pound. I personally fish 16 pound FC Sniper. It's not necessary to go to 20 pound or any higher with a bait of this size and caliber. Like, I feel like once you really start going up in size, you're going to start messing with the action. Like if you're going 20 or 25 pound, especially if it's kind of like thicker diameter line, on that straight retrieve, it might kind of be a little more off balance because of the line and the resistance. So I definitely recommend kind of going down to that 14 or 16 pound fluorocarbon, and I think the bait will absolutely perform very well for you guys. So when it comes down to getting the bait to glide, which I think is going to be the hardest thing for guys, is if you're going to be fishing the stock with the wedge tail on there, I think the biggest thing is getting down the snap. You're really going to have to snap the rod. And you need to kind of keep it in rhythm. And you need to pick up the line with that higher gear ratio reel and then snap it. If you're just kind of like not really picking up the line, it's going to start either going forward or it's just going to never go back the other way. So you have to really give it hard snaps. And then it'll go side to side, side to side. And you have to kind of get into a really good rhythm and groove with it. Like I said, if you start putting more weight in it, like 5, 7, 9 grams of it, it becomes a lot easier to get it to go side to side. But if you want to keep it on the lighter side to have it kind of glide a little bit more and then sink, you really just need to get in rhythm and snap the rod really hard. Like you gotta really snap that thing to get it to go back and forth. That wedge tail is not helping it kind of go side to side, so it kind of needs a little extra snapping of the rod and the reel to get that bait to go side to side. Now, if you're gonna do the shave down tail mod, it's not the same rod action. I would say it's a little bit of rod and a lot more of the reel. So how I do it is just like a light little, almost half turns of the handle. Just, and a little bit of the rod to kind of, and that bait is going to go side to side, super fluid for you. So it's a little bit lighter, just, you're just picking up that line with the reel right before it becomes really tight. So again, it was designed for just slow retrieve. Once you see a fish come up or you get a faller, then you can kind of like snap, and hopefully on that 1-2, the fish just lights up and eats it. So this was something that I had to learn. I was glad that I got to fish with me hard to learn that firsthand. Like, okay, it's not designed to be a glide bait. It's designed to be a bait that you can fish on a straight retrieve, but you can get it to snap 1-2 if you see a faller on it, or if it's sitting on the bottom and a fish is coming. You can kind of give it that escaping action. So that is the new Wazamono Gill Soft 130. I think this is going to be an absolute staple for a lot of guys, whether that's up north, down in the south, west coast, east coast. I don't think it's going to matter that much. It's just a simple gill profile swim bait that you can fish a wide variety of different ways. You could play around with it. You could really tweak out and do some crazy stuff with it to get it exactly how you want it. And I'm sure there's other ways that guys are going to find ways to fish it. And I think it's going to be an absolute staple for a lot of you guys. So if you guys have any other questions about the Gill Soft, just let me know with a comment down below. And other than that, thank you guys ever so much for watching. We will see you guys on the next episode. Peace out.